All right, and welcome back to the SuperCoach Guns show, hosted by the SuperCoach Hub. I'm Nathan from SuperCoach Guns, and with me today, I've got two absolute legends in the SuperCoach community. I've got SuperCoach DR, and I've got Damo from SuperCoach Edge. Damo, DR, how you blokes going?
Very, very well, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. Looking forward to talking some BBL Supercoach with one of my favourite loose units here in Damon from Supercoach Edge. And as always, I say that with great love, mate.
Nah, likewise as well, DR. Always awesome to catch up, and thanks for having us, SuperCoach Guns.
Yep, too easy. Well, first, before we get into the round that was, we'll have a look at the SuperCoach Hub community results. Now, in terms of overall rankings, we had someone come 19th. No, that's not for the round, is it? No, that's just overall. We've got someone in 19th called Fading Philippi. That's Russell. Anyway, 43rd is Milgarn, who's run by Peter. 47th, we've got Team Damien, run by Damien Marr. We know him on Twitter, obviously.
Yes.
And 72nd overall, we've got Great White Clarks, which is run by Thomas. We have 5 people in the top 100. We have 36 in the top 1,000. And last round, we had a top score across all of the community, SuperCoach Hub community, with 1342. Coincidentally, by the guy that's in 43rd, so Milgarn. So yeah, we're doing pretty good this round. Been a solid season. Yeah, not too bad. Well, we'll get straight into the round 6 review. I've titled it "Matt Short is him." I think that's fair enough. But the first game, Sixers Heat. Boys, we all captaining Paul Walter or vice captaining him at the very least.
You got to, I think. Tall Paul. The man on a single last week dominated some of these blokes we've had on a double. So, and you just got to love the great man, don't you? The pants, everything about him I love. So, yeah, VC for me at the moment, mate.
Yep.
Yeah, very much a cult hero, like you said, DR. Always, it's a pleasure to watch. I remember when I first selected him in my team, and it was kind of a bit of a late bolter, I reckon, and people started jumping on him, and 116k when he first started, and now he's up to 195.9k, and been a bit of a revelation. So glad that I've had him in my team since the get-go. So yeah, absolutely. I think VC probably speaks for itself.
Yeah, we're in a fortunate situation where the Heat play before the Scorchers, so we can, vice captain Paul Walter and potentially captain an Aaron Hardy, or if you're brave enough to captain one of those Scorchers bowlers after the performance they put in last round, we'll then go for it. But also Spencer Johnson had a pretty quiet game. Like, he's had a pretty quiet season as well, but he's 113,000 on a double. Anyone interested?
I'll pass on Spence myself. Damon, any interest in the big man?
I did have a fleeting interest actually on jumping on him early in the last round, but I actually opted for his teammate in the big X-Man, Xavier Bartlett. So jumped on him instead, and I just think he's a better, more consistent and reliable player, especially as a death bowler. Didn't bowl the last over, surprisingly, in the last round, which I was hoping for, and getting nabbing another cheap wicket, but he got a 37, not too bad. But I think at a pinch, I think at 113.4k, if you're struggling for a little bit of bank, you can't go too wrong with Spencer, I think, at the very least. But for me, I'll be happy enough with Xavier.
Yeah, fair enough. Xavier's put together quite the season, hasn't he? Like, he's averaging, 70, 68 sort of thing, and he's taken over Michael Neese's role as the all-rounder that bats at 7, which I don't know why, but, that's just how it's panned out. Final point I've got here from that game is Jack Edwards seems to have taken over from Tom Curran as the Sixers lead all-rounder. Did any of you blokes were any of you blokes on Jack Edwards to start the season, or still are on Jack Edwards, I suppose?
No, I wasn't. And we're in this Twitter chat right until the last minute. Is it Edwards? Is it McGurk? And what do? Stash Menenzi on the bench for the next double. Nugget doesn't get up. So I absolutely screwed that decision, made the worst choice possible, and ended up with Menenzi somehow. It was not on my radar, but it makes you panic. Originally, it was Whiteman that I had in. He wasn't playing, so I thought, oh, geez, I need to move him up to a McDermott type. Need to save a bit of cash here and there. So, yeah, long story short, never been on the bloke and absolutely spewing about it.
Yeah, I reckon he's almost this season's Kerr, isn't he? His teammate. And yeah, an absolute revelation. And heard a lot about him, obviously, in the Shield and whatnot, rolling the arm over and looked pretty good. Genuine all-rounder nowadays, as opposed to just being a straight batsman, and looked really good. Unfortunately, I don't have him in my team, like yourself, DR. Wanted to try and squeeze away into my team, but had Darcy Short, had McDermott, had Sanger, and the like. Luckily, missed Menenti. Otherwise, it would have been a little bit of a headache. But yeah, to see that he's gone up from 76.1k to now be 173.5 with a break even still of negative 15. For those people that got him 13% of teams, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, because he's putting out some really good scores. Like, I know from roughly when Curran got suspended, and then, well, I guess since, like, he's been batting at 6, bowling 4 overs, and bowling a lot of key overs and getting key wickets as well. So he's been very good for the Sixers this year. Now we'll look at this second game. So it was Perth against the Adelaide Strikers. This was the game at Optus. Laurie Evans. Now on this same podcast, the round before, I was talking with SuperCoach Locke and SuperCoach Brain, and we were discussing some pod options. Now, Locke and I talked about Laurie Evans, right? I didn't have the kahunas to go for it. Locke did. He got to 1,300. I barely got to 1,000. So what I put here is Laurie Evans did exactly what Locke predicted pretty much. He thought he'd have a very big game in one of these two, and sure enough, he did. Any you gents lucky enough to get on Laurie Evans? And if not, would you bring him in this week, I suppose?
No, I didn't jump on. I didn't have that crystal ball. My crystal ball showed me Crawley, the creepy Crawley, but unfortunately, that man did not try with an average of 14 over a couple of weeks. But look, do you bring him in? I think it's a question of, well, how many scorches do you already have in your side? I think lots of us probably loaded up last week. I don't know if there's going to be lots of people looking to bring in another scorcher, but if you're in the position where maybe you went striker heavy, for example, and you can afford to bring another scorcher in, he's the man in form, isn't he? That was just nuts. Was it off 27 balls, that 80 odd? It was just, imagine being able to be there live and witness that. It was good enough on TV. But look, I think if you're in a position where you can afford to bring another scorcher in, go for it. Low break even. He's going to make some cash. Negative 40 over 2 weeks, two games. That's pretty decent. So yeah, I'm all for bringing him in if you're in a position to do so.
Yeah, Damo.
Yeah, I was. He wasn't really on my radar at all. Like behind the likes of Jai Ty. Connolly already had Aaron Hardy and Inglis. He was way down their pecking order. Even further. So I think after that, could have opted for Crawley. Didn't go for him. But I think just where he bats, sort of middle over thereabouts, behind those guys, a high quality batsman, especially Hardy, who's been in some pretty good form in Inglis as well. I just didn't think he was going to get an opportunity. And I thought the Scorchers, especially on the home deck, that might have been a walkover in their sort of favour, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, for him to come out and smash what he did away as well in Adelaide is a fair knock. But yeah, I think at this stage I won't be looking at him. If you need some quick cash injection, you could probably ride him a little bit for a week. But yeah, I think it was almost the stars aligning perfectly for Hardy. For him to come out and smash at Evans. So yeah, not so much for me as a trade-in, but I can see the appeal.
Yeah, because I've had a few people messaging me saying, "Oh, I think I've got to go get Laurie Evans," and I'm like, "Well, look, it depends on how much cash you've got. Like, if you're looking to generate some extra coin on the side, it's a pretty good option because all he's got to do is walk out on the park twice and he'll make 10k, or 15k or whatever it may be. But no, I don't think he's the smartest trade-in. Like, look, his appeal was his price. I think at 66k, that was when you buy him. Not at 115k now. That's not worth. He's not worth the pickup there.
Think a bit of chasing points.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lance Morris. Speaking of chasing points, I suppose he went absolutely nuts in the double. Got 5 at Optus and got the only wicket at what's the place called? Adelaide Oval. So I can't pick it honestly. Like you could go Jai Richardson, Jason Berendorf, Andrew Ty. A lot of people went to all 3 of those guys. Next to no one goes Lance Morris. Who gets all the wickets? Sure enough, Lance Morris. Anyone get on him?
Nah, missed him. Missed the ball, man. I the blokes you talked about, Ty and Richo. And I do remember Damon and I were in a chat towards the end of this game. We were both Richo and Ty owners. They'd done bugger all. But the strikers, they just had to go for it. And that junk time, little, Oscar the Trash Man, little memes going everywhere. It was fantastic because in their last 2 overs, I think they both snagged a couple of wickets, which is really handy. And I also remember bloody Morris, talking about Morris, dropped a catch off Ty's bowling. 41 points there, Lance. Come on, son. That was just devastating. And good old Scobie, who, mind you, may not have captained his boy this week.
No.
Because I'm asking for it there. But
I'm going to mention it, but you've done it. You've done it, yeah.
I wasn't going to go there.
I was the same as well. He wasn't really on my radar. I thought, Ty and Richo, that would have come out and smashed it and got to the bulk of wickets, especially alongside Berendorf as well, has been in some pretty good form. But yeah, for those people that jumped on him, was he 4.2% of teams? He's a nice pod and would have given him a nice little jump up the ranks. But as we saw and as you mentioned, like it was swings and roundabouts when it came to I guess going from Adelaide to Perth, and you thought he might have performed well, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's not much you can really do about it now. That's for sure. I don't think he's a trade-in now because that's that chasing point sort of thing. I think just enjoy watching him bowl. I suppose future of Australian cricket there, so just enjoy it.
Yep.
Matthew Short, far out. He is fixture proof. Honestly, the fact that he got back-to-back big tons against Perth, that's just ridiculous.
What doesn't he do? He bowls, takes wickets, economy rate. He bats 50 plus strike rate. He's just an absolute beast, this guy. He's a super coach weapon. And it's so scary not owning him even on a single, this bloke. He can just dominate those others on the double. So, hats off to the man this week. Well done to anyone that captained him as well.
Yeah, it was almost that 50-50 call, wasn't it, going into the round? Do you captain Hardy or do you captain the great man, Matty Short? And I went for Matty Short, thankfully, backed him in. And I was a little bit worried, I must admit, early on when Hardy came out and it looked like he was all right and was building a bit of an innings, but then went out. And how was that? It was those 2 guys where it was Matt Short actually got out early, got the early wicket, and he went on with it in the second game. So really built my score for the week and was counting my blessings. And I must have to denounce Scobie as the number 1 fan, because I was like, did you put the captaincy on him? And he was like, no. He was kind of skirting around it, and I was like, oh, come on, you got to back him in. Got to back him in. As good as Hardy is.
He was absolutely livid last night. We recorded the evening pod last night. I was watching it on the TV just in front of me here. He was absolutely mouthing off at himself for not captaining Matt Short the whole time. It's so funny to watch. Oh, wow.
I'm sure Matty Short will forgive him.
Oh, yeah, he will. We'll move to game 3 now, and I've got the Hurricanes and the Renegades. Now, this is a bit of a dud game for SuperCoach because the players that most of us had didn't really do anything that good. So, Sutherland 25, Fraser McGurk 26, Quinton de Kock 20, Nikhil Chowdhury 22. No one really did that well. However, Sam Hain, he went from being dropped to scoring 50. He's around 75k. If he's named in this Hurricanes lineup, could he do a Laurie Evans and have a big double round at such a cheap price? Is there value there?
There's a bit of Evans vibes about him, isn't he? But I'm a little bit worried he's fool's gold. Scores 3, duck egg, 14, 11, and then that 76. Could you say it was a bit of an outlier? Could you say no, he's hitting form and it's the right time to bring him in after a score like that? I'm a little bit unsure on him. I'm going for another Hurricanes batter that I've got a little bit more confidence with. But if you've got the crystal ball like Locke had last week and you think that he's got it in him, then go for it. But I don't have great vibes about him myself. But just a bit of gut feel about that. Could be very, very wrong. Damon, what's your gut saying about Mr. Hayne, mate?
Yeah, you just rolled through his performances through the season. He's really got that one standout, round, and apart from that, he's kind of struggled. So yeah, I'm a bit of a numbers man and like to follow the the trends and averages and stuff, and it doesn't look too favourable for me. So I'll be bypassing him, and I've already got Nathan Ellison, like you mentioned, Nath, that they're not really appealing, even on a double this round. They've kind of been struggling. I think they're averaging around about 4 wickets a game. So even outside the batsmen of Hayne, even the bowlers who you can kind of rely upon most weeks don't look all that favourable either. So yeah, I might just stick with Ellis and McDermott, who I've already got, and just keep it at that.
Yeah, I think that's the guy. Look, I own Chowdhury enough to start the season, and I never sold him, so I've got a Hurricane. I might look at McDermott or Hayne. I think that's where my mind was at, but no, definitely leading towards McDermott. Just thought I'd float that up there. The other point I've got here is that the Canes, they have not been very good with the ball, as you just mentioned, Damo. 4 wickets a game. I know that you've got Ellis, but in a hypothetical, say you didn't have any Hurricanes bowls, would you bring any of them in this round?
I was looking at a round or two ago, just looking ahead. Meredith, I'm a big fan of him. I was eyeing him off, but now I think because I was kind of like weighing up Ellis or McDermott. Oh, sorry, Ellis or Meredith, and ended up going for Ellis. If I didn't have him, I think Meredith I'll be looking at. But yeah, just because of the fact that they're kind of struggling with the ball a bit, their bowling attack isn't getting it done. So yeah, for me, I think I'll be sticking as is. But I can see the appeal if you do need to go for someone.
DR?
I'm staying right away from them, mate. Right away from the top score from a bowler this year that they've got bowler only was Dooley with a 63. Wicket totals 4, 1, 5, 3, 8, which was nice, and then 4. I think one of those was rain affected, but I just don't have a lot of confidence in any of these blokes. I don't think there's been a 3-wicket haul yet from any of these plays. Look, you could get lucky. I'm a fan of Alice and your Meredith types, but again, Damon says you got to look at the numbers, and the numbers suggest to me that you stay away from these bowlers. But again, you never know when it's someone's time just to come out and go bang, like a Morris did last week. I wouldn't be surprised to see Meredith come out with 3 or 4 wickets, but you got to based on your gut feel, your numbers, and to me that suggests that there's better options from possibly the heat that I'm looking at anyway.
And I think absolutely when you get scorchers in the heat, the 2 top teams both playing doubles, you latch onto that. It's very rare you get the 2 best teams in the comp playing twice in the round. That's the one to attack. Now the Renegades, they're just about. Are they out of finals or not quite? But they're looking. It's looking grim for them this year.
Pretty dire.
Yeah, I don't like on paper to start the season. Their team looked fairly decent, and I thought, they could challenge for finals here and possibly sneak in with a 4th or 5th spot. But that just hasn't been how it's panned out. Quinton de Kock didn't fire a single shot. Adam Zampa's been struggling for wickets. How come all of a sudden it looks like the Renegades have signed 6 or 7 players past their prime in the one season?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a fan of the Renegades, both Melbourne teams, but yeah, it's been it hasn't been the best viewing, like you mentioned there. I mean, their bowling attack traditionally has been pretty good, even without Zampa being there, of course. Richo, Rogers got it done last year as well. But with Zampa coming in, he was the big recruit, and you thought, okay, well, that's going to give him a big boost. And just hasn't. Unfortunately, the poor bloke's been out of form after being such, so in form for the World Cup. So it is unfortunate. Aaron Finch, of course, being put out to pasture as well. But then we saw like JFM, the big rooster, come out and smash it early days. And to his credit, he's actually done pretty well, bar a couple of games here or there. But even Sean Marsh, he's getting on in age. So their list is kind of at that stage where, there's middlemen like John Wells. When he gets a go, he looks okay, but does he get a bat? And Sutherland as well. He's been an interesting pick. I think he started the season well, but had him a couple of rounds ago, and he just refused to bowl himself, which was very, very strange. Didn't push himself up the order. As we all know, as owners, and stuff like that. Those decisions which are just perplexing. I think the Gays need to sort of look internally a little bit and work out where they're going and what they want to do. But I haven't got any Gades in my team now, given they're obviously on the bye. But I was quick to get rid of him after the Chief. He did his dash. I was like, get out of my team.
I was actually at the game, and I must admit, particularly these top order batsmen, if they hit the ball off a boat, they wouldn't have hit water. It was just, I don't know what was going on at the start of that innings. Sean Marsh, how's Timmy David comes on for the first over, the old wicket maiden, does not get another look in. I was thinking, geez, you'd feel a bit ripped off there. What more can I do, Captain? But things just aren't looking too good for the old Renegades at the moment. But hopefully they can turn around and get a win or two before the end of the season anyway.
Yeah, they got so much, particularly for Finchy, finishing up in his career. It'd be nice if he went out with a couple of wins and hopefully a big innings from him at some point. But not meant to be this season, I guess. Game 4, the Scorchers and Strikers, they met at Adelaide Oval this time. Scorchers, absolutely terrible this game. One off, or are they a bit out of form?
Very unscorcher-like. It was something you could just tell something wasn't quite right at the start there. But, that they have been travelling. There's a long trip from Perth. But I think it's just going to be a one-off. You can't write off these guys. You just cannot ever write off the Scorchers. They're such a gun team. So I think they'll hit their straps again. And, look out competition, because they've just got an elite list there, the Scorchers.
Yeah, you can't sleep on the Scorchers, of course. Once you underestimate them, they'll come out and absolutely smash you. And they've done it time and again, season after season. So even this upcoming round on the double, they've got 2 away games as well. So it might be a little bit of a test for them to see if they can back it up after the away game at Adelaide as well. So, having said that, though, like you mentioned, I'm fully expecting them to bounce back.
Yeah, fair enough. You'd think that a team of that caliber doesn't stay down for very long, but it was very surprising to see them not perform at all with the ball in hand. It's very rare. It did end up being that captaincy would decide the round for many. It was Hardy versus Matt Short. Who did we go? Did we go Matt Short? Did we go Aaron Hardy? How good or bad was our round, I guess, based off that?
Well, Damon and I have taken over as president of the Matt Short's fan club now. I think someone else has been relegated to vice president because we both picked him as captain.
It's the old left, right, good night there, DR.
I love you, Nate. You know this, mate.
Backed over him. Whacker in reverse.
Oh. He's gonna love hearing that, just so you know. Oh wow. We touched on it before, but Matt Short, him and Max were in a league of their own this season. Honestly, they're doing everything for their own team, and they're both averaging. I think Matt Short's about averaging above 100, and Maxie's averaging above 90. They're both in absolute superb form. Sam Whiteman, quite second game, but overall a pretty nice surprise to see him open the batting for them. Did anyone own Sam Whiteman and got a lucky extra number?
Not for me. No, not for me.
No, I was the same as well. When he was the surprise in, I saw a few people training him in, and I thought, oh, here we go. This is going to be like the one I guess, pod player that people will bring in and absolutely burn me, and almost did because he scored pretty well in the first game and went out for the duck egg or the goose egg in the second game. So thankful for that. Otherwise, it could have rubbed some salt into the wound. But interested to see if he actually keeps his spot going into this round, or if he loses his spot at the expense of, say, an Eskenazi or someone. And goes back to being that traditional non-playing player. But yeah, some people struck lucky because they started with him as that non-playing player loop man and was able to play him on the double, which is an absolute luxury. But yeah, it is what it is. And I was looking at him and we were discussing in the chat last night, DR, about bringing in a loop guys, which might come in handy for the next round when all the teams are on a single and no bye teams. And yeah, that little bit of a worry that, if he doesn't play the first game and then randomly plays the second game and you need to find someone to loop and you use him and you put the C on him to lock in a VC score, that would absolutely burn. So, I won't be going down that route, but fleetingly crossed the mind.
Yeah, so I was in a very fortunate position where I started with him as a keep enough at the start of the season. And yeah, got his bonus number at the 11th hour. I took it with both hands. Pretty stoked after the first game. Absolutely devastated after the second game that he got nothing. But then again, I was expecting nothing from him. So, how I can be very fortunate that he actually did play. Now, let's look forward now to round 7. What's our approach to round 7? Are we going to go mostly the Heat? Are we going to look to one or two Hurricanes? Or are we going to try and improve the quality of the Scorchers that we own? DR, what are you thinking?
I'm going for a little bit of a sprinkle. I think that one mistake that some coaches made last week is going way overboard with the Scorchers, because you've got to think to yourself, there's only a certain amount of points to actually go around here. So, look, for me, a big focus is, and Damon touched on it before, is actually bringing in a loophole. We did have a bit of a chat last night about the best loophole to actually bring in. And there is a man by the name of Burden. DPP, bargain basement price. And shout out to, I think it was Toby in this Twitter chat that actually brought this up, because originally I was looking at Fergus O'Neill thinking, well, he's got a negative break even. Use him as a loop this week. Next week, leave him on the bench. He'll make some money for me. Then I can make a bit of coin and upgrading again to maybe a Thunder player. But I think with Burden, low price, DPP, you can loop him with a Maxwell this week, plays the third game the week after, and then has the bye to finish off. And I think one thing that I'm looking to do, particularly when all teams are on the single next week, is take advantage of some bench scores. I think that's really, really important. So I think you need a couple of loops in order to be able to achieve that. So for me, this week, I'm definitely going to focus on bringing in the loop, and then look to maybe upgrade one of my double game players like a Connolly type. And I'll be rolling with 9 double game players and 2 single game players. I'm just not willing at this stage to leave Shorty or Maxwell on the bench. It's so dangerous, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop Maxi. If he plays well, fantastic. And if not, I've actually got the Chode just to slip in there, which would be 10 double game players. So I'm looking all right at the moment. But Damo, what are you thinking, mate? You got a similar way of thinking? You
Slip in the Chode.
You got me with the Chode slipping in. don't know if it's going to slip in that easily, but love the Chode. He's a bit of a ripper. But like yourself, DR, I'm going down that strategy as well. Maxi on the bench, and then I'm a little bit of a conundrum because, like yourself, I'm rolling with the 9 double game round players, plus a Shorty, plus potentially a Maxwell. If Maxwell doesn't score well, I won't leave people on field, and I'll do some DPP swings, bring in someone. Jilks potentially as a bit of enough player who may play a bit of a Hail Mary in the last round for the Thunder, and then switch McDermott down into my bats because Inglis is already in the wicket-keeping position, and that'll give me an extra double game week player. But yeah, at this stage, pretty content with rolling with, as you said, Matty Shorten and the Big Show, and then all the other players will be the double game week players. But Yeah, I think this is the stage of the season, like you mentioned, to bring in enough or a loophole player, because as we know and as we've mentioned before, that the next round every team is on a single, and then it's the Thunder double to round out the season. So it becomes a little bit more important next round as to having that loophole player, because the captaincy, that might be the make or break as to whether or not you make up those ranks or slide down the list. So yeah, for me, that's kind of my strategy in terms of trade-ins. Like yourself, DR, I'm kind of spreading it out. Luckily, didn't go too overboard on the Scorchers. I had 5 for the last round and won't be adding to that. But I'll be bringing in Kuhneman from the Heat, who's been in some ripping form. Watched him and was really, really happy with his performance in the last game alongside Walter. So, yeah, Kuhneman will be the in, and then it'll be enough player. And then outside of that, I may look to bring in maybe a Thunder player a week early, just to allow me to obviously use the next 6 trades over the coming 2 rounds to bring in some Thunder players. I've already got Sanger, 10 years. So, I think I might look to bring in maybe a Green potentially around about that mark. So, yeah, and then Sam's and load up from then on.
Yeah, fair enough. It sounds like you blokes are all over it. Sorry, DR?
No, I was just saying I like them. Look, myself with my trade, so I'm going enough as well. Definitely going to get in Burden there. I think Damon's man Bartlett, I think he's going to be a fantastic trade in. So definitely going to bring him into the side. See you later, Jamie Overton. A little bit disappointing from Overton last week. And then I'm getting rid of Darcy Short. Don't need him anymore. And I'm getting a batsman in. Now, the choice for me at the moment, is it going to be Mac Wright or is it going to be someone like a Munro? I want to go with someone that I feel's got a big ceiling. A bit of a hope and a prayer that they'll go massive in at least one game. So probably what I'm looking to do at the moment, but who knows, things could change, but would really like one of those risk versus reward type players, hoping they can give me a big one.
Yeah, so similar vote to you guys. I was also looking at Xavier Bartlett, but I didn't own Torpal, so that was my first mistake. So I have to burn 200k on him, and then to burn another 200k on Xavier Bartlett was just a bit too much, and unfortunately, so I settled on Matt Kuhneman. When I say settled, like the bloke's averaging 57, it's not too bad. He's been very consistent this season. Always getting a lot of economy rate, always picking up a wicket or two. He seems like someone I could bank on for a safe 100, 110 on a double. And very happy to own him. No worries with that. I'm planning on looping in Marcus Stoinis and Glenn Maxwell, and Josh Philippi. So I've got 3 people that I'm happy to loop in, but probably can only loop in 2 of them at maximum, just with the way that the side is set out. I have 10 people on the double. So I'm willing to sacrifice like a Sam Whiteman, Cooper Connolly, or Nikhil Chowdhury. More than happy to sacrifice any of those guys for Maxi or Stoinis or Philippi if they go off. But I think I'll be looking mainly at Heat players, and I guess the big discussion that I'm going to be having with myself today is whether I go Ben McDermott or Nathan McSweeney. Any advice is appreciated. Who would you be picking, McDermott or McSweeney?
Do you know, when's Wadey back? Is Wade back in? Will Wade have the gloves this week?
No idea, actually.
That would factor into my decision.
One, isn't it?
Yeah, see, if Derm has the gloves, it's just that a little bit of bonus, I suppose, that you could be getting caught behind. I'm finding that really, really tough to split. Damon, you got a thought each way about that one, mate?
Yeah, I think it probably, for me, like you mentioned, kind of hinges upon if Wade plays, just because it, elevates the ceiling if McD takes the gloves and elevates himself up the order as well. Probably will be an opener. I think he was in the previous game, so that's a bit of a bonus as well, and extra, obviously, overs to build a bit of an innings compared to where he bats at, 3 or 4 previously. So yeah, for me, I'd probably go for McDermott. But then, as we've mentioned about the Heat being the informed team, McSweeney, super talented player. So I do like him as well. So it's almost a coin flip. But I think, probably wait to see if Wade plays. If Wade plays, I'd probably go for McSweeney and go down that route. But luckily I don't have to worry about the decision because I've already got McDermott. But something to think about. Yeah, that's for sure. Otherwise, the old coin flip, whip it out and slip it in, as you said, DR.
Oh, yeah, gold. Yeah, because they do play each other, don't they? The Hurricanes and the Heat. So that can be made as a game time decision, which that's very good.
Point.
In
Yeah,
that
good
sense.
point.
Now, we've kind of covered it, but your top 5 trade targets for this round. DR, who are you thinking your top 5 will be?
Well, the first bloke for me is the man that you're looking to bring in, going up almost 100K this year. It's got to be Tall Paul, DPP in fine form, 30, 71, 152, 5 and then the 86 on the single last week. Now, he should bowl his 2 to 4 overs, always a chance for the strike rate bonus if he manages to get a bat. All this guy needs is a couple of overs at the crease, and he could get you 45 points, get to that 20 plus a strike rate bonus. So I think Tall Paul, great option this week, and he's going to be my VC. So he'd probably be number 1. And number 2, I've already covered this bloke a little bit, but it's Xavier Bartlett. I won't go through all of his scores, but again, in fine form. What I will say is, though, if he just averages what he's done so far, so he's averaged 2 wickets a game, that's 40 points, averaged 9 dot balls a game, 9 points, averaged 10 extra points in the field as well, that's 3 catches in the run out, extra 10 points there, 6 for an economy. So you're getting around 65 points there, just if he does what he's been doing every week. Next, this is a tough one. I'd probably go Mac Wright, highest averaging player for the Hurricanes, only the one failure, which was last week, averaging 76.7 at Blundstone Arena. Unfortunately, though, next 2 games are away. I think it's the Gabba and Adelaide Oval. Last week, only away game, only got the 8. So that concerns me a little bit, given the fact he's not at home. But I think he's a bloke that could get you a 50 to a 60 each game, maybe get towards a 120, or you could go with a Munro, risk versus reward. And the other bloke I've got here right at the bottom, we've mentioned again, but just in case you are looking for another scorcher, then Evans is probably the bloke that I'm looking at just to throw a scorcher in there. So they're probably the top 5 for me. And special mention to Cooney as well. Very safe selection. We've talked about some risk versus reward like in Munro. Cooney's the opposite to that. He's just that really safe selection that you can pretty much bank on getting you 100 over 2 weeks. So probably, 5 to 7 picks there that I'm interested in, bud.
Yeah, fair enough. Damo?
Yeah, very similar to DR. Tall Paul, absolute gun. It looks like he's growing in stature as well, considering his pants are getting shorter and shorter. But an absolute gun. He's a pleasure to watch, isn't he? He's the cult hero. Like you mentioned, DR, he's a perfect VC choice. Bats, he bowls, he does everything. He's an absolute gun. So he's top of the list for me. Then similar sort of order. Xavier Bartlett, got to go for him. Absolute gun. Pace option, has a really good role. Death overs, all that sort of stuff. Kuhneman, he's in 3rd spot for me. Like I mentioned earlier, he's just in ripping form with the ball, just making it work off the pitch, and really do like the look of him. 4th spot is a bit of an interesting one for me, because I'm kind of looking outside the double game week players. I think a lot of people, at the very least, have 5 to 6 scorchers. And then outside of that, they could potentially have enough, like we, I think, all do, in terms of double game week players. So you could potentially use one of your 2 or, the 3rd trade to bring in a Thunder player early. And for me, Daniel Sams, I think a lot of people traded him out in order to afford, one of the higher priced scorcher players. So you could potentially bring Sams back in. Has a really awkward sort of space in the round, because he plays the 3rd game, middle of the round. So you probably wouldn't be able to loop him in, but I think it might be a bit of a point of difference there, especially because a lot of people will be looping Maxi off the bench. So as something as a bit of a roll of the dice, you could potentially look to bring Sams in if you can afford to do it. I can't, unfortunately, but strategically could be a bit of a play. And then outside of that, potentially maybe a Munro, who started the season quite well and hasn't been as good with the bat, but I think he's well due with the 2 games at the Gabba as well. He's always helpful for the Heat for both their games.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll go through my 5 quickly. So, surprise, surprise, my number one's Tall Paul as well. I won't go in too much detail for the guys that we've already covered. So I've got Tall Paul at number one. I have Xavier Bartlett at number two. I'm still going to be looking at ways of getting him in throughout the day. I could potentially nuff out Ben McDermott, or I could. The other avenue I looked at was selling Jai Richardson, but that could be getting a bit too extreme. The third one that I have here, I did put in Colin Munro, but that was only because I'm not so sure on Nathan McSweeney. He doesn't have that ceiling that Colin Munro does, that's for sure. But he's more like not as volatile as Munro. But Munro's ceiling probably puts him ahead of McSweeney for me. So I've got Munro at 3. I obviously have Nathan McSweeney at 4. I think he's very promising batter, and I could pick him, but Ben McDermott gets to bat on Adelaide Oval, and that was a clincher for me. That one, I need to own Ben McDermott. Also, he's owned by half the comp, so not owning him is very, very risky. So I didn't go in that direction. And then, well, my number 5, like I would have said Nikhil Chowdhury if he had a decent break even, but I mean, otherwise, I guess it's number 5's a tricky one. I'll say McDermott if you don't own, because that ceiling is just his ceiling's enormous. He's 100k. Adelaide Oval. It's absolute batter's paradise. The Scorchers made a mess of batting on that wicket. Honestly, they took a too cautious approach and thinking they could defend 150 on that thing. You can't. You can't defend 150 on Adelaide, no matter how good you are. I'm going Ben McDermott as my number 5. Finally, let's run through what we are actually doing this week for our trades. DR, what are your trades this week?
All right, mate. So my 3 trades this week, I've already used my boost. I used a boost last week, but it's Overton to Bartlett. Overton doesn't have another double coming up. Bartlett, close to a must-have, I'd say, this week. Darcy Short's either going to go to Mac Wright or Colin Munro. And then Cooper Connolly, because I don't really need him. He'd just literally be sitting on my bench without the emergency this week. I'm going to swap him to Burden, who's going to be my heat loop for the rest of the season. And along with Quinton de Kock, I'll be keeping on to as well. He's no longer in the tournament, involved in the tournament. So I think having that wicket-keeper loop, as well as someone like a Burden who's got that DPP between your bowlers and your batters, I think that's going to be really handy to get some of those bench scores. So they're my 3 for the week, mate. Damon, where are you travelling, my man?
Overton goes out. Kuhneman comes in. Sort of my one big trade, happy enough with my double game week players. Like I mentioned earlier, 9 double game week players. Then I'll probably roll with Maxi and Short to round out the 2 single game players. If Maxi doesn't go well, I'll switch McDermott down, which will then mean that I'll have to use a trade to bring in a wicketkeeper batsman Nuff. So at this stage, potentially a Jilks. Not ideal considering he's still at 82.2k. Would like to go for someone that was bottom price, but was thinking about, we mentioned it in the chat last night, but Pistol Pete Hanscom, the hand job, as you referred to him as, gets the job done. One of my old favourites back in the day when he was at the Stars for a few seasons. The trouble is with him is that the Stars play first up, and as a captaincy or VC loophole, doesn't really feel a need there. But who knows, if he comes in and he's activated for, which I think it's probably a little bit too late for him to be added into the SuperCoach, I think, at this stage. But I may have to settle for a Jilks. And then outside of that, the third trade, I actually don't know what I'm going to do. I may get rid of Darcy Short, and bring in someone like a Chris Green early, just so I can load up on some Thunder players and maybe end the season with an extra Thunder player or two to try and get a bit of a step ahead of the competition. So that's kind of my thoughts at this stage.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm looking at, let's run them through here. I'm looking at selling Darcy Short, Jamie Overton, and Will Sutherland. And then I'm looking at getting Paul Walter, Matthew Kuhneman, and Ben McDermott. But throughout the day, as I said before, I'll be trying to find a way to get Xavier Bartlett instead of Kuhneman. But if I can't, I'm pretty content with Matty K himself. Well, that'll do us for today. Thanks for coming on, gents. Hope your seasons go as well, even better than what they already have so far. You finished really well.
Thank you very much for having us on, mate. It's been really enjoyable chatting with you two blokes, and all the best luck for the rest of the season. It's going to be over in it's going to be a couple of weeks. There's not too long to go,
Yeah.
is there? That's the thing with BBL. It's like bang, we rush through it pretty rapidly. But yeah, always great chatting with you blokes, and thanks for having me on, Nath. Much appreciated, mate.
Too easy.
Yep. Thank you, boys. It's always a pleasure, and always a pleasure to reconvene as well, DR. We've had a bit of a yarn many a time, and it is always a joy to jump on and be a bit of a loose cannon as we have at times. And I think you've initiated it, DR. I'll blame you. The unintended gag about Chode. That's very good. Kept me on my toes and got me in the giggles. So very, very good. And thanks for having us on, Nath. Always a pleasure, and happy to jump back on anytime.
Too easy. Cheers for coming on, and we will see you next Thursday, I guess, for the round 7 review and / round 8 review. Enjoy the round, and see you next round.